you and Platinum Blonde is my new favorite thing. Oh, hey! Hi, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race UK versus the World, Season 1, Episode 4. And before we get started, all I have to say is, Jorge, drink me! Oh, is this a margarita? No? Close enough. Fresca and vodka. I love that. I love Fresca. It's so refreshing. Maybe that's why they named it Fresca. Fresh. Okay, well, let's get to it. So, the world was still reeling from the shocking move by the hater of all things Canadian, Pangina Heels, to send Jimbo home. And Blue Hydrangea was quick to point out that she'd also sent Lemon packing. Does this make Pangina the most hated person in Canada right now? Well, what if it did? What's the worst thing she's going to get? No one will apologize for bumping into her? No one will hold open the door for her? They'll block her driveway with a truck? Is it too soon? As the rest of the cast tried to recover from the shock, Pangina did reiterate that they all signed up for this. It's eliminate or be eliminated, so no one should be shocked. Mo looked a little shocked. Baga was clearly gobsmacked by Jimbo's elimination and asked Pangina why she sent Jimbo home. Baga nearly barfed when Pangina faked her out with a no comment. But Pangina actually said she picked Jimbo because, well, she felt Juju did more work for the challenge. Baga wasn't buying it. She felt Juju's outfit was beyond basic and far from being the Juju she'd seen on TV. Well, she's not wrong. Of course, JJ had to show everyone whose lipstick she had. It was Juju's. Juju wasn't surprised. She felt that JJ had already saved her once. She wasn't expecting her to do it twice. Mo must have been reading Juju's mail because they wanted to know if this was Juju's last chance because, well, she's already been saved twice. All Juju could say was that she'd been taking it all one day at a time. Ooh, one day at a time. Have you seen that on Netflix? Oh my God, it's such a good show. Rita Moreno? I'll watch anything she does. Seriously. As the Queen's de-dragged, Juju vowed not to be in the bottom again. Over in her lonely corner of the workroom, Baga made a vow too. She was vowing some sort of revenge for Jimbo. Whether that revenge was aimed at Pangina or Juju, I'm still not clear, but there was ominous laughter, so it couldn't be good. The next day in the workroom, Pangina did just the right amount of gloating as everyone congratulated her on her second RuPeter badge. Blue took no time at all to point out how quickly any of them could go from the top to the bottom. But there's a glass half empty in a full kind of way. Speaking of, Baga was wearing a caftan. She was either too depressed over Jimbo or out of clean underwear, but the result was this caftan and the thinly veiled threat that she would be sending one of the other queens home. Hard to take anyone seriously when they don't have underwear. Before Baga could cry, "In the name of Jimbo!" there was Ru's video message, which was very cryptic and had the queens scratching their chins. Not for long, though, as Ru arrived with this week's maxi challenge, Snatch Game! The family edition? The queens would get divided into two chosen family teams, each with a celebrity house mother. Because Pangina won the lip sync last week, she got to pick her family first. Pangina was a bit nervous because she's actually never done a Snatch Game before, but I thought she picked well. She picked Juju and Baga. Very funny queens. And as her celebrity mom, well, they picked Katie Price. That left Mo, Blue, and JJ with celebrity mom, Michelle Visage. She was the choice the whole time? No one pulled out? Oh. As the queens got ready, Ru dropped by to judge their choices. Pangina was first and told Ru that she was doing Mariah Carey, and then the two of them talked a lot about Pangina's tongue. I mean, it made me feel awkward. JJ was next, and I was sorry to hear that she was going to be doing Tan Mom. I would have liked to have seen her try to do an actual celebrity. Clearly, so did Ru, who asked her what her second choice was. Apparently, it was James Charles. Again, not a celebrity. Well, not anymore, anyway. Juju was next, and because she'd been on Drag Race so many times, Ru went over Juju's oeuvre, which was Kimora Lee, Fran Drescher, and Eartha Kitt. Now, she was going to be doing Cher. Well, it's a good thing Juju's funny is all I'm saying. Mo was next, and if there was a bigger shock than Juju doing Cher, it was Mo doing Gordon Ramsay. I want to know who these so-called friends in Mo's life are, where they let them go around thinking that that was a good English accent. These people aren't your friends, Mo! Seriously. Most of the time when Ru makes a suggestion to a contestant, well, she's wrong. Or off. Or whatever you want to call it. But every once in a Ru moon, she knocks one out of the park, and this was one of those times. Ru thought Mo would make a much better Billy Porter, and I have to say, I thought she was right. It certainly gave Mo something to think about anyway. Blue was next, and from her costume pieces, it was clear she was going to be doing Austin Powers. Ru didn't seem to care one way or the other. She was still thinking about Blue's X-rated Mary Berry from season 1. So much so that Ru asked Blue where she gets her blue sense of humor from. Ultimately, like all good humor, it came from a place of pain for Blue. Fears of inadequacy across the board with poor Blue, God bless her. Blue even had a bit of a cry as she unloaded issue after issue at Ru's feet. And now, the idea of standing in front of Ru dressed as Austin Powers was freaking her out. Hell, it was freaking me out. Baga, the most famous woman in Britain, was next and had Ru laughing right out of the gate. Baga told Ru her humor was a defense mechanism from growing up in a tough neighborhood. Plus, well, she left home at 16 and has been working in bars for 15 years, which has to help as well. After kidding Ru that she was playing Mary J. Blige, Baga declared that she was actually going to be doing Kathy Bates from Misery, and that's where Ru's laughter stopped. Until Baga told her that she was her #1 fan, and then, well, Ru started laughing again. So was I, but for a different reason. I just find it funny when Brits try to sound American. Just me. And then it was time for Snatch Game Family Edition, and if these queens weren't nervous enough with the idea of Snatch Game, they were also now testing a new format. Because this was Family Edition, the queens would be competing in teams of chosen families. I have to say, I like this format. Everyone got a turn to say something and be funny. There was no hiding. Everyone got a moment. I mean, whether they used it to their advantage or not was up to them. For the most part, I thought everyone did well. Okay, maybe not JJ. I thought she looked like James Charles, but most certainly wasn't funny. Mind you, neither is James Charles. The queen I was most worried about was Juju as Cher. Her denying to Ru that she was licking her lips as she was licking her lips was hilarious. And then telling us that Cher is short for charcuterie, I can't even say it, charcuterie, was too funny. Did Juju look like Cher? No. But then, neither does Cher anymore. Someone who had the opposite problem was Pangina Heels. I could not get over how much she looked like Mariah Carey. It was impressive, but God bless, she just wasn't that funny. Someone who was funny was Bag of Chips. Not only was her Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes from Misery hysterical to look at, but production adding that sound effect every time they cut to her was brilliant. And I haven't even gotten to her performance. I don't think there's a line Baga uttered that I didn't at least giggle at. Her calling RuPaul Paul, her holding RuPaul's book Guru, blowing kisses. It was all brilliant. Here's to Baga. Well done. I don't know why I doubt her. Speaking of brilliant, Blue's Mike Myers gave Baga a run for the money, if you ask me. There wasn't any point where Blue didn't have something to say. And she was beyond funny. I really wasn't expecting her to make it work. And then she switched to Dr. Evil, and the laughs continued. And not because, well, she looked like that doll Hugo Man of 1,000 Faces. Did you have one of those? I wanted one. But the queen who deserves all the praise has to be Mo Hart. The fact that Mo not only improvised their whole performance without any research or prep was beyond impressive, but to improvise the outfit too, I couldn't be more impressed by Mo Hart. That was a masterclass in going with the flow. Seriously, here's the Mo. Well done. The next day in the workroom, the queens were still trying to work out some entry choreo, but I feel like Blue's roller shoes threw off their timing or something. Pangina had a gift for Juju. A little kitty purse, which, of course, Juju loved. What manager of them all wouldn't? While the queens were getting ready, it was clear that JJ was worried about his performance of James Charles and asked the room what they thought about talking about controversy. I think Blue made a good point. She has a large following and she has to consider them whenever she's posting about anything. There is a responsibility there that needs to be recognized. Of course, this led to a discussion about cancel culture. Pangina talked about getting death threats for her calls as a judge on Drag Race Thailand. Baga admitted to not being very woke where her humor is concerned, which inspired Mo to bring up the point that not every subject joked about is funny in the first place, including, well, jokes about trans people, people of color, disabled. These are all easy pot shots, and it's got to stop. Seriously. All in all, it was an excellent conversation that I hope World of Wonder releases as its own entity on YouTube, unedited. Seriously, I'd watch that. Then it was time for the runway. Ru looked stunning in her sleek version of a flamenco gown. Can I just say that this Thai silk effect of orange and pink in the same fabric is stunning on Ru. She just worked a similar color on Drag Race 14 and, well, it was heaven. Seriously. Michelle looked pretty in her PK dolman sleeves, and joining them on the judges' table, radio goddess Clara Amfo looking perfect in pink, and actress and obvious beauty icon Michelle Keegan. Category is Luck, Be a Lady. Blue's high fashion version of an Irish leprechaun was beautiful, but I'm glad she said she was a leprechaun because otherwise there was very little luck in this look for me, Irish or otherwise. Still, she looked fab, so I gave her a Fingerdoo. As beautiful as JJ looked, and she always looks beautiful, I hated this runway. It was too literal. She looked like she was from the cast of a Vegas show warning against the evils of gambling. Just me? Either way, it's a Fingerdoo for me. I'm so sorry. I had absolutely no idea what was going on with Juju's runway until she did that bobbing paw. Well, and then I got it. Here's to Juju. It's one of the nicer things she's worn down that runway, and I actually like that wig piled up on her head, so Fingerdoo for Juju. I know, I'm just giving them away now. And then Mo Hart hit the stage as a Vegas showgirl, and just based on how good they looked alone, I would have handed the win over right there and then. But then Mo flipped the switch and did her best impersonation of Miss Electra from Gypsy. Her entire costume lit up. I was amazed. My only comment was I wish that the rigging in the back wasn't so obvious, but still, Fingerdoo for Mo. Seriously. Baga was next in what was obviously a leprechaun. I have to admit, I loved her hair and makeup this week, but that costume looked a little cheap. Still, it wasn't the worst thing down that runway, so I had to give her a Fingerdoo. If I had to compare Pangina's runway to Janie Jacquet's, Pangina would have won, but I still didn't like the concept. Pangina just executed it better, so Fingerdoo for Pangina. And then it was time for the judges' critiques. Blue was up first, and Michelle was impressed with how she volleyed with Ru during Snatch Game, and then stepped it up by switching characters. I agree with Clara Amfo. Blue really did breathe new life into characters that we have seen be done to death. Seriously. Ru had a lot of fun playing off of Blue, which is what Snatch Game is all about after all. As for Blue's runway, no one had any negatives. So it was a good night to be Blue. Jamie was next, and right away Michelle went after her choice to play James Charles. As with most of these social media stars, there isn't enough material for the queens to work with, so their performance falls, and that's what happened with JJ. As for her runway, everyone seemed to love it, but to be honest, I think they were just being kind after slagging her acting. Just me. Juju's Lucky Kitty was next, and Michelle had it right. Unless Juju was doing that thing with her hand, you had no idea what she was wearing. As for her share, it was such a bad impression, apparently, that it was hilarious. I don't know if that hurt Juju's feelings, but she seemed to be very sedate during the critique, and not in a comfortable way. Did anyone else notice that? Mo was next, and they were another fave of the judges. Of course, everyone loved the runway, but Ru said it best when she told Mo to live her life in that color combo because it looks stunning on her. Oddly enough, that's the same color combo Ru's wearing. As for Mo's Billy Porter, Michelle said it wasn't the funniest, but Mo did a great job being in the moment with Ru. So, Baga was next, and Michelle admitted she was worried what Baga would do after killing the Snatch Game in season 1. Well, obviously her plan was to kill it again. Ru called it a masterclass in Snatch Game, but as for her runway, I'm so glad Michelle called her out for robotic and repetitive runway style. Let's hope Baga changes it up for next week. Seriously. Pangina was another favorite of the judges. From runway to Snatch Game, she killed, but everyone agreed that her Mariah Carey wasn't as funny as it could have been. Hell, Mariah Carey's not as funny as she could be. And then Ru announced that this week's top 2 queens were Baga and Blue. But the bigger piece of news was that all the other queens were in the bottom. No one was safe. I know I threw up a little. Back in the Untucked Lounge, Blue and Baga were feeling chuffed to win at Snatch Game, although Baga felt Blue was a fairly close second. Of course she did. As for what lay ahead of them, Pangina was worried. She just eliminated a threat. What if Blue or Baga did the same with her? So the queens broke off into pairs to plead their cases. JJ told Baga that Snatch Game isn't her challenge, and Baga clearly respected JJ's honesty. Pangina told Blue that she didn't want to go home, and Blue said Pangina was her biggest competition and therefore didn't want to send her home. But the temptation to get rid of her was real. Foreshadowing? Baga told Mo that she would have been third for Snatch Game and then assured her that she wouldn't pick Mo's name. So they both relaxed a little. Juju's line of defense with Blue was that if it had been a regular drag season, she would not have been in the bottom. That would have fallen on JJ and Pangina. But when Blue asked Juju if she would save her if she were in the bottom, Juju waffled and didn't commit an answer either way. I would have pulled a Jimbo and lied. Pangina told Baga that she didn't think she was the worst in Snatch Game. Pangina thought that JJ was. And then Pangina got a little emotional over the prospect of being sent home and made a last commitment of having Baga's back in the future. Well, Baga didn't buy it for a second. Baga was out to avenge Jimbo, and Pangina was the queen that sent her packing. As for Blue and Mo, Blue was very open about not wanting to send Mo home. That seemed to be the theme of Baga and Juju's talk as well. Plus, Baga brought up the point that in a regular season of Snatch Game, Juju wouldn't have been in the bottom. But she was. Blanche. As for Blue's chat with JJ, I got the feeling like Blue wasn't looking to send her home this week. I don't know why. Meanwhile, both JJ and Juju were worried, as well they should be. They'd both been in the bottom now a couple of times, so it was still anybody's game as far as they were concerned. Back on the main stage, Blue and Baga had to lip sync to Let It Go by Alexandra Burke. I think Blue had the upper hand right out of the gate. Baga, unfortunately, looked like someone's sad spinster aunt dancing to the last song at a wedding. So it was no surprise to me that Blue was this week's Maxi Challenge winner. So, whose lipstick did she have? I thought for sure she was going to send Juju home, but no. She went the other way and got rid of the competition. Pangina heels. Oh, God bless. Well, everyone was shocked, including Ru. But as for Pangina, she was devastated. She kept trying to hold it together, but she wasn't strong enough. Before she left the stage, she apologized for letting down all the Thai people. Oh, bless her. And then the camera cut from face to face of the other queens as we could hear Pangina wailing as she made her way backstage. Needless to say, my heart just broke. But having Ru tell the remaining queens they're still in the mix while Pangina continued to wail really brought it home. This is a competition, and only one queen can win. So, what do you think? Were you surprised by Pangina's elimination, or did she open herself up for it when she got rid of Jimbo? Was Blue shady about picking Pangina's name? Whose name do you think Baga has? Well, we're just going to have to tune in to RuPaul's Drag Race UK versus the world next week to see how it all falls out. And when you're done, you come on back and you see me so you and I can compare notes. Now, before you go, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And don't forget to visit my links in the description box for ways you can help support this channel. And until next week, miss me! Why? Seriously, Jorge. So much drama. You think that was a little bit of global karma? Pangina going home after getting rid of Jimbo and Lemon. Huh. As shocking as Jimbo's elimination was and Pangina's, it made for great TV. I always like watching something that I don't expect. I'm not always, it's not always going the way I want it, but still, I find that unexpected turn. It's obvious this person winning. Like, that's why I didn't enjoy the Vivian winning season 1 of Drag Race UK. No offense to her, but it was obvious she was going to win. It would have been great to see an upset. And I think that's what's great about All Stars is because the queens are doing the eliminating, there's much greater chance for an upset. But still, ooh. Poor Pangina. Oh, gosh. I think she felt that she could have won it all, too. Who's going to win it now? I think Mo's got a good chance. So does Blue. Just have to see. It all boils down to what the challenges are and how these queens execute them. Execute or be executed. That's how it's going. Ooh, cut the throat. Seriously.